Hello and welcome once again to the TryPod, and this week we'll preview the final regular season round of the year, round 26!
Let go!
Let go! And we have made it to the last round of the NRL season, round 26, and what a year it's been. How you doing, Saka?
Mate, I'm going well. I can't believe we're at round 26 already.
It's gone so quick, hasn't it?
Yeah, time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
What a year. I mean, we could never have dreamt about being where we are now. I think, we started from humble beginnings.
Yep.
But I mean, it's been fun, hasn't it?
Oh, it's been an absolutely roller coaster of a ride, and we've finished the season strong. I think, having winning rounds out of 11 out of the last 13 rounds. I think finishing off, last week with 129 winners, giving out 129 winners to 75, which is an absolutely ridiculous percentage, over the whole season when we've given out over 200 best bets.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, what we've done is we've won a lot of money this season, and winning money sports betting is not something that's easy to do. And, I hope that people have enjoyed it. We've picked up a few new listeners every week. I hope you guys have picked up a little bit of knowledge. And one thing that we've said is it's not easy to make money betting sports. But we've been able to do it at a pretty consistent clip.
Yeah, absolutely. At nearly a 60% clip at the moment, which is unheard of really in the sports betting world. But it's going to be an absolutely massive pod this week as well. Obviously, last round of the season, there's a lot of things going on in terms of matchups, positions on the ladder, people jostling for top 4 minor premiership spots, and obviously the top 8 is sealed. But people jostling for better spots there. So I guess we should start it off with a bit of a song like we usually do, shouldn't we?
Why not? Kick it off, mate.
We got to give the people...
What do we give them, though?
Give the people what they want. And we haven't done this for a little while, but I thought we'd do a bit of Betting 101 for some of the new listeners out there. But I guess, did we want to explain first, we have picked up a few new listeners over the past week or two. Did you want to just quickly explain, exactly what we do every week and how we give out picks and sort of...
Yeah, I mean, we mix it up, but basically we break down every single game, every single round. We give up best bets. We don't always have a best bet on every game because that's not how you make money. We pick our spots where we see value, we read the market, we look at the lines, and we give out, a number of best bets every single round against 50-50 lines, only where we can find a price of $1.90 or better, and then we track our record. And basically, because you're getting $1.90 for every dollar that you bet, you need to be winning at over 52.5% to break even. And we've cashed it. We're cashing at like 64% on the season on best bets, which is definitely unmatched. And there's no site out there that's charging subscription fees or whatever. That's scoring at any kind of rate like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we do it, because
well, that's it. And not only do we give out best bets every week, and it's easy enough, and there are listeners out there that just obviously look at the best bets, not necessarily maybe listen to the pod, but hang out for the best bets and just play them solely. But what we also try and do is delve a little bit deeper and give you a little bit of betting theory that not necessarily you can use, you can probably use that week as well, because obviously that's where it applies to, but that you can use in your normal betting, live betting on different sports and all that sort of thing. So I think we should probably kick off the pod with a bit of Betting 101 like we used to.
You're a real estate agent by trade. What's the golden rule in real estate?
Location, location, location.
That's it. And what I want the fans, the listeners, to remember is the golden rule in betting is motivation, 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 okay? And a really good example was the crazy game that transpired on Sunday afternoon. We had the Dragons. We got a great line of -6. That Dragons team was totally healthy, and I think that Dragons team can make a bit of noise in the finals, but maybe we can argue about that later. But that's a really good Dragons team against an utterly depleted Titans. You had Ryan James out, Greg Bird was out, Aiden Caesar was out, the captain Nate Miles scratched for a kickoff. That's literally their 4 best players. They had no right to be in the game. If you were to look at the 2 lineups, it was a complete mismatch.
Absolutely.
But the Titans team was playing with reckless abandon. They had nothing to lose. They're throwing triple cutouts. They're at home. They're just trying to win the game. The Dragons didn't need to win. And this is what I'm saying. You've got to just remember, at the end of the day, everyone, puts their pants on one leg at a time. You've got 13 people, human beings, going out onto a field. Anything can happen. And,
Definitely.
And you've got to factor in motivation, because it doesn't always matter about talent. If one team wants it more, quite often in a sport like this, a sport that, tests the will of athletes, the team that wants it more quite often prevails.
Absolutely, and the Titans, last home game of the season, they really wanted to show up. It didn't happen with Manly last week, but usually the last home game of the season, teams do tend to show up and want to put in for their fans, even if they are no chance of making the 8.
And we didn't have a best bet on Manly, and people can say, look, they had to win to keep their season alive, but their motivation was actually, I think, just dead in the water. I think they were so drained and just let down from losing at home on a Sunday to the Eels, as we predicted. They kind of knew that they needed too many results to go their way to make the 8, and it kind of showed on Friday night, but take nothing away from the Roosters.
That was the dream crusher.
Motivation is going to come into play with some of our picks tonight, but why don't we just talk about that when we get to each game?
Yeah, definitely.
Let's start with the Broncos Storm tomorrow night.
Let's get into it. So we've got the Broncos hosting the Storm, and this line's changed quite a bit. Now we've got the Broncos at 2-point favourites, with the total sitting at a low 36.5.
Yeah, and it should be a really good game, and we're going to talk about some good opportunities to make some money this week. This is kind of the lead domino, and depending on which way this falls, it can, spark a different series of events, kind of
Absolutely.
butterfly effect theory. Don't really like a side too much in this game. I think Brisbane is the better team, but I've got to say Melbourne's one of the healthier sides in the competition right now. And look, that backline really impresses me. Cameron Munster has really played out of his skin. They're not missing Slater as much as I thought they would.
No,
I really like the wingers. Korobidi is an absolute beast.
He is a monster.
Several, beastly Fijian wingers we've got in the comp at the moment. I like Matt Duffy, the high jump champion on the other wing. I feel like he's always good for a try off a bomb. Will Chambers was one of the best players in Origin. You still can't go past Cooper Cronk. So I've got a lot of respect for this Melbourne team. That's why straight away I'm going to suggest that we look for that Melbourne backline to put on a couple of tries in this game, and we can get a line of 2.5 total team tries for Melbourne. That's probably the best bet I can see in this game.
I love it, yeah. And the thing is that the total is so low, and that's the reason why you can get still that over 2.5 tries. And I think Melbourne will put on a few points here, because there is more motivation, I think, and people are out there saying, minor premiership, Brisbane wants the minor premiership, but really, do they? Wayne Bennett's seen what happened to Sydney. The injuries that the Roosters got, the injuries that the Rabbitohs got, the injuries that the Cowboys got 2 weeks ago, and that's essentially the best other 3 teams in the whole comp. And he's come out publicly 2 weeks ago and essentially said that he doesn't care if they're first, second, or third. I don't totally agree with that. I think he would like to be top 2, but they're locked into a top 2 spot now. So, and Ben Hunt's out as well. So that's the reason why the line has come down.
Yeah, breaking news,
so
Ben
much.
Hunt is out.
Yeah, there we go.
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
And Alex Glenn is out as well. So that's the risk of taking Brisbane. Do they really need to come first? It's a nice little bit of silverware for the trophy cabinet, but really there's a much more important trophy to play for later. You're right. The issue with just taking Melbourne straight up, this is their 3rd game in 10 days. That does take a toll. They'll get a nice break, a nice little bit of recovery time playing on a Thursday before the finals, but you do just wonder if this team, how fresh they are, coming off a grinding win against the Cows. So I'm happy with just that one best bet.
Yeah, likewise. Moving on to the Friday night game, an absolute showdown here as well. We got the Roosters hosting the Rabbits. This line actually sitting at about 8.5 to, you can find as high as 10, and the total sitting at 39.5 to 40.5.
And we had, the Bareback Bandit kindly joined us on the pod, and
great
shout out to
ours.
the Bareback Bandit. We got a lot of positive feedback. Guarantee he'll be back.
He was one of the favourites, actually.
Yeah, people really enjoyed what he had to say. And
he's an insightful young fella.
Yeah, and he gave quite a good rap.
Yeah,
on the team, and look, he told us he still believed in the Roosters, and they were sensational. When you saw the shots of $2 million worth of talent sitting on the bench watching, with Kenny Dowell and Jennings and Pearce and Weir Hargraves all, in tracksuits, and they're watching their teammates put on 40 against a Manly team playing for their season.
Yep.
Geez, that's ominous. Now they do return Jennings to the side. And they're short favourites here, but you can't look to the Roosters. We've been saying all year the Roosters are the best team in the comp, at this point, in my opinion, they're now overrated.
Yep.
Now, if anything, you want to look to bet against the Roosters because what happens is when a team keeps winning games, people just keep betting on them and they keep winning and everyone's happy. But if this team starts suffering injuries, people don't notice because it hasn't reflected in their results yet. But the fact is that Sydney aren't as good as they were when they had Warrior-Hargraves and Pearce. So I'm definitely looking to the Bunnies here. I know they had a terrible game for us last week. But what we need to do is wait and see the result of the Storm Broncos.
Absolutely.
And we spoke about motivation before. Now, if the Storm beats Brisbane tomorrow night, which is honestly about a 50-50 possibility,
Agree.
then the Roosters are locked into the minor premiership. Now, if you're Trent Robinson, you've got injuries to two of your star players. I mean, why are you trotting out Roger Tuivasa-Sheck and Maloney and Jennings out there? I honestly think there could be some late omissions. I think they'd be crazy to go into a brutal warfare game against a South Sydney team that can still finish fourth. Then that makes South Sydney a great bet, plus 10. But we can't give it out yet because if Brisbane beats Melbourne, then Sydney needs the game to finish top.
Correct.
But definitely South Sydney's the side, and even then, even if Brisbane does win, we may still play South Sydney because as we said before, how valuable is first over second.
Well, the thing is, and also if I can cast our eye back in time to the Thursday night game, the thing about, if Brisbane does win this game, Sydney are probably going to try, obviously they are short favourites, but they are going to try and wrap up that game against South Sydney and finish first, because it is slightly better to have the minor premiership and play, an injured Rabbits team, or possibly even, a Canterbury, a Storm, or a Sharks team.
Yep.
Yeah. But the thing is, Brisbane are coming into that game knowing that even if they do win that game, the most likely scenario is that they don't finish top. So they might be even more likely to rest players. But look, the thing is, and like you said, if Melbourne does win that game, the Roosters are locked into that top position. And, given that fact, they probably will rest some players. It makes the most sense. But likewise, if that happens, then, Souths is the team to jump on straight away. But just without knowing that Thursday night game result, you can't do an awful lot with this one, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's why I will suggest, if you think Melbourne's going to win Thursday night, a Melbourne-South Sydney multi. And that's something called a correlated multi, and maybe we can talk a little bit more about that later. But basically, if Melbourne wins tomorrow night, South Sydney's got a way better chance of winning on Friday night.
Correct.
But at this stage, definitely looking to play at South Sydney. Just warning you guys, don't just throw the Roosters in your weekend multis thinking that they're definitely going to win and thinking the Bunnies are kind of in a downward spiral. The Bunnies could get the jump on them here, depending on
I agree. And
out.
then if you really are confident about the Broncos and want to take that slightly inflated price now, then you multi that with the Roosters as well. So it's, you either take a Brisbane-Sydney multi or a Melbourne-Rabbits multi, and that's your correlation there. So we've got no play on that game for now for the Friday night game, but we'll keep you posted. And just another point I wanted to make, sometimes, and we've done this in the past before, sometimes they leave the odds up during the game for the week's round. So you could be watching that Brisbane-Melbourne game, and then, Melbourne could be up, 16 points with about 20 minutes left, and you can jump on your Sportsbet app or whatever app you have and play South Sydney plus 10, because that line after Melbourne wins is going to be under a converted try, I think. So, anyway, moving on to Saturday afternoon, we got the Panthers hosting the Knights. This game's sitting at Pick'em, and as we've explained previously, Pick'em essentially means that both teams are at $1.90, and the total at a high 44.5.
Yep, so the line is, you could say, 0 for this game. That's about my interest level in this game too, but they are playing for the wooden spoon. I would say otherwise they were playing for nothing. A lot of money's come for Newcastle. It's kind of two teams going in opposite directions here. The Panthers just kind of had the straw that broke the camel's back with just too many injuries. The final one was their captain Elijah Taylor, and they fell apart again on Monday night. So I don't have much to say about this game.
Is Soward going to be playing? He got
apparently Soward's been named as well.
What a brutal tackle.
Yeah, that was...
Good God.
That was a great
Totally
collision.
legal too.
I enjoyed that one.
That's good.
But look, Penrith's got still enough talent in their forward pack to win this game. The Knights are playing really well, so I think it probably is a coin flip. I don't have a best bet on the game.
No, I agree. I don't have a best bet for it. Newcastle obviously still playing really hard for Danny Medeiros, and he's got to be stoked. He's got a couple of wins under his belt. I know he went, I think, 0 of 2, or in the most brutal games ever. I think they had the Roosters and Rabbits back to back, and then they started to show something. So they want to finish the season strong. And Newcastle was the side when the line was up around 6 earlier in the week, but right now at Pickham, there's no value on either side in my opinion. Next up, we got the Dragons hosting the Tigers. Now, St George are hovering around 4-point favourites, with the total sitting at 42.5 to 44 points.
And we got a few questions about this game during the week, and people looking at the ladder. And as you should, you've got to understand the permutations of every game on the final placings, because these teams understand it. And not only is it in the players' heads of whether they really do need to win the game or not, but it's in the coach's head and depends on who he plays. And if you've got a guy that's 50-50 and you need the game to come fourth, you're going to play him,
Yeah.
But if he's 50-50 and you can't improve your position, you're crazy to put him out on the park.
Definitely.
Now, the deal is for St George, they're pretty much in the 8th. They're in 8th position. They can't get to 7th. And the only way they can drop to 9th is with a loss here, probably a big loss here, and then a big Manly win over Cronulla. And those are two very unlikely events, but not impossible.
Correct.
Now, this Dragons team's, on a little bit of a slide off a couple of losses and, very disappointing loss at the Gold Coast, but I'll forgive that because they didn't need it. I think they do want to come out and have a win. It's their last home game. And I think they definitely just want to be competitive. So if they do lose, it's only going to be, a narrow loss. And then it would still take... We need a 60-point swing to push the Dragons out of the final. So, if they lost by single digits, they'd feel pretty safe. The Sharks won't lose by 50. But if they allow this Tigers team that is just playing with nothing to lose, throw the ball around and run rampant and, put 30 or 40 on them, because they don't show up, they're going to have a nervous wait through the Sunday.
Absolutely.
So I think they're going to come out and try and grind, play their grinding style, trust their defence. They let in 28 points last week. They don't want to do that again. This Tigers team, I think they want to build winning habits. And I think they're enjoying playing. They're fully healthy now. Robbie Farah's last game, they want to get a win for him. When you want to win, you might be a little bit more careful with the ball. So I'm looking to the under here. I
totally agree with you. And we had a question from one of our listeners that really liked the Tigers team and said that sort of St George didn't need the game. And look, he's probably right. They probably don't. But in St George's eyes, they're playing first. They're playing before the Manly Cronulla game. So really, if Manly and Cronulla played first, and obviously Cronulla won, or Manly won by between 1 to 12 points or something like that, then they might rest a few players. Because they are playing first, they really do want to lock up this 8th spot, and they could have done it last week, and they're probably kicking themselves that they didn't, because they would have been resting some of their best players this week. But that's not the case. They need this game, and they're going to come out with a controlled type of footy. They're going to sort of be careful. They're going to want a low-scoring game. They're not going to want to get blown out. They want to win the game, but at the same time, as you said, if they lose, they don't want to lose by many. So I'm leaning towards a low-scoring game here, especially because, as we've said, the Tigers love the D, and they've been focusing on the D all year, and it hasn't really worked out for them that well. But still, you can get under 8 tries for the total game score, and I think I'd probably even prefer to play that than the actual total of 42.5 to 44.
It's almost like there's an echo in here. You just said, I think, everything exactly the same that I just said about that game.
True.
So I like under 8 tries as well.
Let's take it. We're taking under 8 tries for the Dragons-Tigers game, and that will wrap up the first 4 games of the round. But obviously, before we do anything else, we should have a word quickly from our sponsor.
Sanity is now on Facebook. Like the page to gain access to free downloadable mixes and stream Night Tremors radio from any connected device. Sanity, proudly supporting the TryPod NRL betting podcast.
Yeah, good on you, Evo, and he's doing well there. Obviously releasing his mixes. I think he does them sort of once weekly.
Yeah, check him out. He drops bangers.
Now, and he can drop even more bangers now. He's moved out of home, so he can drop bangers constantly.
Yeah. Hope all the ladies heard that.
They did.
Now, look, we've got to race through the next 4 games, because obviously the Batchies tonight, and I'm going to get kicked out of the studio pretty soon.
That's right.
I'll tell you what, that Bachelor post was a polarising post, one of the most popular we've had. We're an NRL betting podcast, but your write-up of The Bachelor I've got to say I enjoyed it, and I think a lot of other people did too.
Some people probably were offended by it, but yeah, it did get a little bit of interest there.
You dropped some truth bombs, but geez, it went more viral than bloody that time Dwayne went to Bali. I'm telling you, and I think we've got another one to look forward to this weekend.
We do, yeah. I think I'll do another wrap this weekend after obviously Wednesday and Thursday night's episodes, and we're down to 6 girls now. It's getting towards the pointy end, I guess, of the finals. And I'm not going to pat myself on my own back here, but I've been pretty spot on. I mean, I said that Snez would win. I called her for the outright win, and I'm sticking to my guns there. And I know you liked Heather early on, and you're still sort of fond of her.
Look, she's still cute. She's still a sleeper, and I thought there was value there because you kind of knew he'd keep her around till the end. But look, I'll give you credit where credit's due. Snezana, the MILF, she definitely looks well placed. She's a bit of a chiller. She kind of never seems to blink while all the other absolute guff's going on.
She's such a mum.
I mean, I've been watching a little bit of The Bachelor. I've been watching a bit of The Walking Dead too. I was watching The Bachelor last week and the new intruders came in. The first bed was pretty fair looking.
Lana. Yep.
And then Rachel came
Correct.
in. And then I couldn't remember if I was watching The Walking Dead again. She looks like
She looks like an alien. Her face doesn't match her body.
No.
She's got a normal 20-something-year-old body, but she's...
You hate to see it happen.
You know, it's like a 50-year-old lady's face.
Yeah, she's got like a goblin gremlin face. Actually, a lot like a girl that the Bareback Bandit is quite familiar with.
Yes.
But look, so for that reason,
very similar.
Let's keep this going. Cows Titans.
Cows Titans. But I'll tell you what else. Wednesday, Thursday night, 2 people gone. Rachel and Nina. You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. You need to know that when you're at the water cooler at work tomorrow.
Absolutely. We got the Cowboys hosting the Titans. This line sitting at 12.5 points. Cowboys are favoured, with the total sitting at 45.5 to 46.5.
Okay, I'm a Cows believer. I still think they're going to be fine. I heard that Michael Morgan's injury isn't too bad, and neither is Tarmow. So I think that's absolutely a team that can win the comp. They are 100 times better than the Gold Coast. But for the same reason as we spoke about the Dragons game, we just don't know their motivation of the Cows. They are locked into third position. You know, they'd be crazy to really play Jonathan Thurston 80 minutes here in this game, with that being the case. But on the other hand, they're on a bit of a slide. They probably want to put in a good performance.
I think
anything could happen. Too much uncertainty for me, so I don't have a plan.
Too much uncertainty. The Titans are going to come out and want to show up for the last game of the season, but at the same time, like you said, the Cows can't move up or down, so you know they might play it safe and rest some players as well. So too much uncertainty here. We might know a little bit more. Actually, we won't know any more about this game, so we're going to leave it alone. We got the Eels hosting the Raiders. This line's sitting at 3.5 to 4 points. The Eels are favoured, and the total is astoundingly high, 48.5 to 49.5 points.
Yeah, and that...
You read that right. That's the highest total of the year, I think, that I've seen.
And the Raiders games just consistently just go over every time. But look, the better side here is Parramatta. Blake Austin got injured on Monday night. The Raiders had a good performance at home against the MASH unit of a Penrith team. The only side I can look is Parramatta here. Parramatta was up 6 against Cronulla with 10 minutes to go. And, you know, a couple of things didn't go their way and they let that one slip, as they've let a lot of games slip this year. But I think you've actually got a side that has a few troops back on deck, is underrated, and is going to win at home. I want to lay the 3.5 with Parramatta here.
Yeah, I do like your thinking as well. And no one's been talking about Parramatta. And a lot of people were talking about the Raiders early on when there was, you know, still a chance of them making the 8, which up until a few weeks ago was still a high probability. But Para's just been forgotten. They've been bottom dwellers for a while now, but they've quietly been stringing some wins together and some good performances. So, yeah, let's take the better team at home, laying 3.5. I think it is a cheap line. I'm happy to make that a best bet.
And what about the Raiders under 22.5? For a side that we don't think is going to win the game. I know it could be high scoring, but actually Parramatta tends to play kind of lower scoring games.
Yeah, and I'm happy to go with that as well. I do like Parramatta as Parramatta's definitely the side there.
Such a high total.
Sounds good. Next up, we got a very important game. The Sharkies hosting Manly. This line sitting at 4.5 points. Cronulla are favoured, and the total sitting at 42.5.
Yeah, and Cronulla, they gave their fans a heart attack last week when they were down against the Eels.
They did.
Their destiny's in their own hands to make the 4, but Valentine Holmes came up trumps again, and we got the hot tip from a man that has his finger on the pulse in Cronulla before our very first pod, and we said, Valentine Holmes is going to be the difference in some games this year, and he absolutely has been. So now you've got a home team at Shark Park playing for a top 4 finish. That's incredible. This team lost their first 3 games. No one gave them a chance. Well, just about nobody. Because I think one of us did say that this team actually still had the potential to be a contender. And you put the Fafitas back in this side, and especially if they get the win here and come 4th, they are a contender.
Absolutely.
You're welcome. In fact, we had fans emailing through the year saying, are Cronulla good value at 60 to 1? Are they good value at 50 to 1? And we said, there's a team heading in the right direction with a forward pack that can match it with anyone and a style of footy that can win in the finals. You just don't know what you're going to get out of Manly. Look, we can't take Cronulla, in my opinion, here. Although they need the win, we can't take them because Manly, it's the last game with Cherry Evans and 4 and the last game under Tuvey.
So disappointing lately.
They've been disappointing, but we did see them play their best form for 3 or 4 weeks there. They're capable of just about matching it with anyone. I wanted to actually bet on Manly. You've kind of talked me out of that because you just don't want to go against a home team that is desperate and that has enough troops to win easily.
Yeah, that's it. And I think at that line, at 4.5, I think the value is probably with Manly, full strength side that they're bringing in there. But at the same time, like we said, in regards to motivation, Cronulla need this game like blood. Plus the fact that Canterbury are playing, on the Monday night after them and can still overtake them with a loss by Cronulla, even if, let's say the Storm and the Rabbits lose. So I'm happy to leave this game alone. So last game of the regular season, we've got Canterbury hosting the Warriors. Now this line's sitting at 24.5. Yep, you heard it right. 24.5 to 25.5 points, and the total at 48.5.
Did you say Sunday night or Monday night?
Monday night.
Yeah, no, it's actually a
Sunday night. Sorry,
because we've got finals starting the following Friday.
Correct.
We can't back up from a Monday, so there is no more Monday night footy. But still, it's not a great spot to be playing on a Sunday night when you know you're going to be in the finals next week. Now the Doggies, as we've spoken about, the reason you want to rest players, they lost their goal kicker, their origin halfback, Hodgkinson. He's gone for the season. Now, it's a bit of a luxury that you can draft in, an origin player from last season, Reynolds, and you already had Mbai blooded. So that they're going to be fine. They're still going to be a hell of a team to handle in the finals. And Aiden Tolman is back. This team is so much better than the Warriors on paper.
Yes.
They could win this game by 50. But there's a couple of things in play here. We don't know what the ladder's going to look like when this game rolls around. And I tell you what, Des Hasler has made a lot of grand finals in the last few years. He's a smart coach. He's savvy. If his team can't improve their position, or even if they're in a spot where they're sitting in 7th and they can jump to 6th, there's no difference between coming 6th or 7th.
Correct.
Either way, it's a game at Telstra Stadium against the Rabbitohs. I could see the Bulldogs pulling some players out of this game. That reason alone is probably good enough to grab the 25.5 with the Warriors. And even then, even if the Bulldogs do play a full-strength side, I can see them just trying to manage this game and get through, and just try and close it out. So I think that total is just... Well, the total's high, but I think the line is just too high.
Yeah,
I want
definitely
to take the points with the Warriors.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that line, look, at worst case scenario, you're probably getting a fair line if all results go against you. But, if Canterbury are locked into a spot or if they're locked into 6th or 7th, then they're not going to play their full-strength side, let's face it. And they're going to have to put up, a hell of a lot of points to cover that line. But not only that, because the total is so high, sitting up close to 50, you can get the Bulldogs at under 36.5 points as well. I think that's a goer too.
It's one of the highest team totals in the year for a team that just lost their dead-eye kicker, and probably even if they do score a few tries, they're not going to convert them all. It's going to take a lot of tries for that bet not to win. I think that's another best bet.
Yeah, correct. And should we just quickly explain, just in regards to the try lines, and you might have noticed sometimes we do like taking a team try line under or over, and sometimes we prefer to take the points. And as we've explained in previous pods, we do like to take the points under when they have a really a bad kicker, I guess. And then we do like to take the try line under when they have a really good kicker.
Yep, stands to reason, but they're both similar. Okay, look, we're going to have to go rapid fire here. Batchy starting in a couple minutes. Here's our best bet summary for you.
Wrap it
We've
up.
got the Storm over 2.5 tries. We're taking Dragons, Tigers, total game tries under 8. We want to lay 3.5 points. That's the Eels minus 3.5. We're going to take the Raiders under 22.5 in that game as well. We're going to take the Warriors plus 25.5, the biggest line of the season, and the Bulldogs under 36.5, which is the highest team total of the season.
Bam.
All right, keep the rapid fire going. Guys, check out Take on Tom. He's going to win his multi this week in the AFL. Check
He's
out
sharp.
Pringle's Premier League predictions. He had Swansea, the Swans, over Man United. That's
Yes.
pretty bold. He called that as a best bet.
He is bold. And then obviously we've got another episode of Put Your Tip Where Your Mouth Is, 2 brand new contestants, and will someone knock Nettie off his perch? I don't think so.
He cannot
4
be
weeks
stopped.
in a row
He
now.
cannot be stopped. It's insane. And look, I'm really excited to announce, we wish we could have more time to do this justice, we have a brand new segment. It's called
It's going to be great.
Nettie Given Sunday. And Nettie, who has already shown his prowess and he's larger than life
Yes.
in every aspect, he's going to be bringing some NFL knowledge to you guys every week, giving you a bit of his take on Jared Hayne, which is the biggest sports story in Australia right now, and giving bold predictions in the NFL. You do not want to miss it. The
Yeah.
guy.
Absolutely.
I can't wait for it.
And on the same topic of the NFL, we've started up, very excited to announce, we've got the NFL tipping comp, the TryPod NFL tipping comp kicking off. Anyone can enter. Just hop onto our page, search for the link. We might even post it to the top of the page so that everyone can find it, because the NFL does start in a little over a week, I think. The winner's going to get a TryPod merch pack, which will have a heap of cool stuff in there. And then we're also going to run a promo for anyone that can tip over 60% in the tipping comp. Which
And that's what we did this year.
That's what we did this year in the
Can you take
NRL.
on the pod? Can you do what we did in the NRL this year? And if you can do better than what we did, we've got some really awesome prizes that we can't even say right now. We're working around with our
Prize to be
sponsors.
announced, but there's going to be a big prize for
no.
anyone that can manage that feat.
It's going to be epic. Check out the Ladbrokes Mega Margin. You can win $1 million off $1.
Absolutely, and another point. I know we get the YouTube apps, the YouTube pods up a few days after the Dropbox, so make sure you get the Dropbox app so you can get the pods straight away. Jump on the best bets, because you might lose out on a little bit of value waiting a few days. So it's easy to download, easy to listen on the go. Download it, listen to it in your car, easy as.
Listen to the pod the right way. Get the Dropbox app. Do yourself a favour. Finally, happy Father's Day for anyone out there that is a father. If you're not sure if you're a father, Heathy, have a great day from your pod fathers here. Have a great weekend. Have an awesome round 26. Been our pleasure bringing you the pod, through the regular season.
We're going to continue on in the finals.
Let's just say we're going to be back for the finals. There may not be as many best bets, but we're going to find an entrance where we can.
We have a massive pod set for next week as well.
Our finals preview is going to be monster as well. So look forward to that. But as always, please
Oh, please.
gamble responsibly, guys.